Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Laura Skinner, and in each episode, we'll uncover the stories behind successful startups, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future expansion. Today, we're excited to have Justin Bianchini, the CEO of Coachable AI, joining us. Justin will be sharing more about his founding story and giving us a glimpse into his plans for future growth. So let's jump right in, Justin, and welcome to Founders Future.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks so much for having me.
Love it. Awesome. So let's go back to the beginning. What inspired you to start, and tell us more about what you solve within the market space?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in sales now for about 10 years, ran some sales teams, was a sales leader at some high growth startups, and was fortunate enough when the AI boom happened to be on the buying side of things. So I was running a sales team at Main Street as head of sales and was getting, contacted for AI for lead generation, AI for email personalization, and all of these solutions that were coming out. And I thought, take these meetings. They were all really, really cool, but it kept leaving me with one big question. Like, yes, these automate a lot of the tasks. They make my team more efficient, but do they make them more effective? Like, how do we actually make the team better, and how do we get them to close more deals? And so I kind of knew I wanted to start a company, but wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Had this light bulb moment where I was sitting down with one of my sales reps. She was nervous about an upcoming call, and I was like, hey, why don't we role play it out? I'll play the customer, you run through your pitch. And as we were going through that, I could just see the confidence building in her. And that was where it was like, that's what I need to do. I need to build something that scales these role plays so sales reps can practice and get those extra reps in. So what we provide at Coachable AI is a risk-free environment for sales reps to practice cold calls, discovery meetings with AI prospects. Yeah, it's AI prospects that are tailored to their customers, and they can go in, run through a full conversation back and forth. They get objections, questions, they can do discovery, and then we give them immediate feedback and coaching on their performance.
I think I saw a friend of mine in the industry, Sophie Allen, try this out and record herself and put it on LinkedIn like last week.
Yeah, potentially.
That's insane. So essentially what you're saying is I could cold call someone on the platform that's my ICP, that's my IPP, that has my pain points that I need to solve, and they would respond with objections, all that kind of good stuff that I could just then practice within that environment in like the comfort of my own room potentially.
Exactly. So instead of, you're in sales, you know what it's like to role play in front of your
Of
team
course.
or
I
with
love
your
it though.
manager, or like how embarrassing it can be. And so this gives you
Absolutely.
the opportunity to do it at home. So it's simple to onboard. Literally, we just capture the company you're working for, and then we start building the personas for you. So within 2 minutes, you can be in your first simulation of running through that cold call or discovery meeting with that prospect. They're going to mention competitors. It'll be realistic,
So
like
good.
talking to a customer. And then obviously your challenge is to either schedule that next meeting or in the discovery call, book, the follow-up call.
Yeah, this is so good because within my first career, I was a part of what they call a rocket ship, which I absolutely hate. But I used to make my counterpart, who I absolutely loved, we just like are two sales nerds. And I used to make him go and stand outside of the room, call him literally on our iPhones just to role play because it made me so prepped for like a power hour.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
like,
I think that the use cases have been really cool to see. And so from users, like, we see a lot of sales reps who are new into sales, right? They
yeah,
haven't really done it. They're in their first sales role, not really getting the
I can
support they want to
imagine.
practice and just build up. But even really experienced sales reps, there's a couple users who have been in sales for like 10 years.
Love
And I
that.
was kind of surprised when they started using it. And I reached out to talk to them and was like, hey, what, prompted you to use something like this? You've been in sales for a long time. And they mentioned it's really hard to get meetings right now. And so every meeting you get is an at bat, and you only get so many at bats. They need to make sure that those at bats matter and they're converting them to close deals. So they use it in the morning to warm up. So it may be one or two
So
practice
good.
in the morning to get the jitters out. They can make the mistakes, and then they hit the phones or their Zoom calls, running for the day.
So the product, obviously great, been like produced, etc. But just for our listeners within this podcast, would love to unpack a little bit more about the go-to-market strategy,
Yeah.
where you're at now, and also to double onto that, any initial challenges, what that kind of looks like as of today. Would love to just unpack for our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. So where we're at today, we, kind of a journey to get here, right? As coming
Yeah.
from the sales background, like I, knew that I was onto something, that this was such a gap in the market. And first question was like, well, who's going to build this? Like, I don't have a technical background, right? And so I decided I want to be as close to the product as possible. I'm going to teach myself to code and build this myself. So built the product
Wow.
in market, which has been really cool to see. It's mind blowing every time I think, people are using this, they're paying for it and like they love it. And it's, something that I built on my own so far. So we have product in market. We have users from across about 45 different companies now, which has been really
Nice.
exciting to see. And our strategy has really been over the last like month and a half in really targeting the sales reps themselves. They're underserved in this equation. They want to get better. They want to make more
Do.
commission. They don't want to lose their job, which there's such a high turnover rate in sales. And so we've been, going directly after the sales reps themselves and seeing if this is something that they would use. It's quick time to onboard. You really like get that magic moment and like those aha moments really quick. And so that's been really successful for us so far.
Love that. And I completely agree with you, by the way, because like I think there's a use case of both, right? Like back in the day, this would have been essential to my career, but even now, like you pick up bad habits, you might transition into a whole new industry. Like in
Yeah.
between being in this sales world, I worked for a finance company and sold like something I literally never sold. See, I genuinely never sold to like financial controllers before, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is like restarting sales.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And I
so
think
like,
it's, kind of important, like sales really is, a lot of people have this misconception that like once you're good at sales, you're always good at sales.
yeah,
And
it's
that's
not true.
not really the case. Like it is a muscle that needs to be consistently worked.
100%.
And when I tell people, when I use the phrase like sales practice, they kind of look
Yeah,
at me like, kind of like, what do you mean? Like, what is practice in sales? And if you really think about it, the best athletes in the world, like
she was going to
let's
say
talk about
that.
Simone Biles. Like she,
I know.
she probably spends 90% of her week practicing in the gym before she hits the stage. And I think that we should shift that mentality around sales as it's, a highly skilled role that takes a lot of soft skills and hard skills. And it's, more of an art than a science. And so it's not something you learn and then you're just always good at. The best reps are consistently practicing, whether that's like you mentioned, maybe their ICP changes, maybe it's a new product launch, maybe they want to test new messaging, or in the case of a lot of users, they know they're going to mess up. They want to mess up earlier on in the day
So
so that
true.
they convert those calls.
I always compare my career to my brother, who's a professional athlete in rugby. I know it's not huge in the
Yep.
States, but it's huge in England. And he only plays for 60 minutes on a weekend, 60 to 70 minutes. And his life is to pass that rugby ball round Monday to Friday. He's in
Yep.
meeting rooms, he's analyzing, but he literally plays for less than an hour because
Yep.
it's like quick on and off in that sport. But
100%.
anyway, so I just completely agree with that. So what are the challenges you are facing with the go-to-market strategy and acquiring those customers at the minute?
I think it's been an interesting, kind of ride so far. There's a few big challenges. I think one, we're all familiar, and most of the listeners are going to be familiar with how crowded the sales space is, right? There is
Absolutely.
every day there is a new tool out there for sales teams. And so where I see the challenges on our side is twofold. We're building kind of two new categories of products here that have never existed. One being a tool that sales reps can use on their own to actually get better. And it doesn't require your manager to integrate across all these systems. It doesn't require them to purchase it. It's accessible, it's affordable, and it's built for sales reps to get better on their own. But a lot of times when I reach out to them or start talking to them, the first message they reply back with is, this looks really cool. I'll send it to my manager, but I don't know if we have budget. And I'm always like, no, don't do that. Like, I want you to use this on your own. Like, this is built for you. The second is, the concept of role playing with, an AI customer. That's new. That hasn't really existed before in the past. Like you mentioned, it's always been human to human and trying to find people. And
100%.
so having to get those points across in a concise way when you have limited attention in a competitive space is obviously difficult. And so I think that kind of leads into the strategy that we're really focusing on for the next 6 months, which a lot of our growth has come organically, which is awesome. But what
Love
we're
that.
seeing happen on its own is this like, referral system. And it's I think the best reps I've ever worked with, and sales is competitive, but you never gatekeep what's working for you. You're always, you want
100%.
to share those best practices, those best tips with your teams. And we're seeing that happen with Coachable, where one sales reps comes in from a company, they start using it. And then next thing we know, two or three reps from that same company are coming in organically. So really doubling down on that referral strategy, making it easier, in product to make those referrals. And I think a lot of exciting things around gamification, challenging friends that I think is going to make it, even more exciting. And so those are coming down the pipeline.
And I think this goes hand in hand with this remote life we now live. Like, I think people are, yeah, they're going back to the office, but maximum, and I've got my whole friendship group is in sales, right? Maximum, they're in the office 3 times a week. So that leaves another 2 days where they are at home and they do want to also have that interaction, have that gamification and be able to practice and not have someone opposite them that they can just role play with.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I see it a lot in, new hires, especially onboarding,
yeah, I
new
can't even
sales reps
imagine coming on in a different
remotely. It's
environment.
hard, right?
Yeah.
And I think like not only is it difficult to do over Zoom, but I remember as a sales leader, not only did I have my new hires that were starting, 8 or 10 at a time, but also my reps that were in seat already that I had to pay attention to. So I'd often give them like a few hours each day, like, hey, break off into groups, want you to role play, want you to practice your
100%.
pitches. But they don't fully understand the customer side of it. They don't know the pain points of a customer. They don't know how to role play that effectively. And so AI can do that really, really well in a like quick and concise manner. And everyone is always so impressed. They're like, wait, I didn't expect it to mention my competitors. I didn't expect it to
Yeah.
mention this pain point. So it's been cool to see the ways people have been using it.
I love that. I love it. I love the product. I love the strategy. I love it all. So growing and scaling, obviously you say you've got customers across 45 companies, which is awesome. What does the next like 6 months, but beyond that look like? So the next 12 months, what's the plan to organic growth's great, referral system's
Yeah.
great, but what does the future look like?
Yeah, so what we're seeing right now is a lot of good opportunity for partnerships. There's a lot of companies out there that not only are in the sales space but the sales coaching space, and so you have companies like closers, but let's say those independent sales coaches that are going into companies and really want to prove their mark. We have a lot of them reaching out saying like, hi, hey, how can I use this with my teams and get these sales reps up and running? So I see a big expansion and push into the partnership place with sales coaches, sales consultants. There's a lot of sales training kind of academies that are doing, kind of that ramp up time that don't have an opportunity to practice and reinforce. And we can position Coachable really well there. And then obviously eventually making that big push into the B2B space.
For sure. Okay, so you are going to go for a B2B play as well.
Yeah, I think, my goal and when I started this, the North Star was always how many sales reps can we, impact and help? That's always what I cared about, so deeply. And it's what I've cared about in my career. But I think that as a sales leader right now, the main focus is really on efficiency for a lot of revenue leaders. It's how can we get more leads into the pipeline and how do we automate a lot of these tasks? I think that slowly changes in the next 12 to 18 months where we start realizing, hey, we're getting leads, but now we actually have to worry how we convert those. And I think that will kind of open up the floodgates for Coachable AI to be positioned in that space really well to help support these sales leaders as they want to empower their team as well.
For sure. And what do you actually foresee for you guys as one of your main challenges when you are looking to scale?
Yeah, I think I hate to keep beating it, but the crowdedness of the space, right? And I think that there's a lot of just noise. I've tried a lot of solutions out there on the buyer side and now as a founder, and I think there's a lot of over promising and under delivering happening with AI,
Yeah.
where yes, there's a clear market need for certain things because you can tell by the initial demand, but they're not meeting the needs of the customers, and people are churning. I see our biggest challenge being, can we build something from the bottoms up that really helps sales reps and build a sustainable product over the next 12 to 18 months so that we are well positioned to, make that push into the B2B space. But I do
Wow.
think there's a lot of great, products out there and it's competitive. And by building new categories, it's a lot of education, right? So it's explaining to like sales leaders why they should care about this, why this is important, and how it can be impactful. And I think we can counteract that by proving with individual sales reps that are using it on their own and love it, that we've built something that people, that not only
Wow.
impacts them, makes them better, but they love to use it. I mean, it's at the
100%.
core, it's a training tool. And more than half of the sales reps that I speak to that use it call it fun, which is mind blowing to me, right? Like think about any training you've ever done in the workplace. Like, has that ever really been fun? But we see them using it not just during work hours, but in the evenings after work, on the weekends. And so they're taking, this initiative because
Insane, isn't
it
it?
is interactive and engaging. And, I wish I had something like this when I started out in sales as a, sales.
100%. So can people just, and this is going off track, but I just think our founders will like this. So can
Yeah,
people, especially for their sales teams as well, but can people just almost like log in, sign up, and then they're kind of good to go within a matter of minutes, and it's just like on their
exactly.
laptop that work provide them, like,
Yeah, exactly. So on the website, like it's free to create an account. You get your first 5 simulations for free, and then you can run through those. You get feedback and coaching, and then you can upgrade directly to the monthly unlimited plan, and then you're off to the races. And so that's typically what we see is people finding us, hopping on to, the free trial and running through those simulations, and then coming back and subscribing and using it on their own. And I think founders is a great use case. A lot of my friends are founders and
100%.
they reached out immediately and they were like, "Can I use this? I'm just starting to sell. I've never sold before."
Yeah,
Like
that's what Sophie's doing.
super nervous. Yeah. And so I was like, absolutely, like jump in, use it. And so seeing a lot of founders using it as well. And I think that's a really great use case for founder-led sales.
Yeah, I love it. I just think it's great. And then also, there seems to be so much, and this is just from what I know, but obviously you can have a VP of sales or a CRO that's bought in your B2B play, but there's also so much available within companies that offer a certain budget for fitness or
Yeah,
training or anything like that, that they can actually claim back through their company anyway. So they might be able to pay on their credit card, but they can just expense it or claim back because it's
exactly.
something to do with like training. So you've got that path to go down as well.
Yeah, there's a lot, like a lot of the sales reps are getting reimbursed, whether it's
I
through
was going
like
to say, they must be.
education or ongoing education,
Yeah.
whatever, a lot of companies offer those. And in many cases, it's, not even a question or difficult for them to do. And it's really affordable for reps to use on their own. It's $25 a month and they get unlimited simulations. And so there's, not a lot of
It's
price
insane.
hesitancy around there. And those were really two of the things I wanted to focus on, coming from being a sales leader. I was tired of every tool that I ever tried to use and bring onto my team. Took weeks to onboard. And
Yeah,
it required a lot from me to figure out,
100%.
personas or keywords or all of these things. And that was something I really wanted to focus on. And then I wanted to make it accessible for sales reps. The options right now are, hiring, if you're lucky enough or fortunate enough to hire some external consultant to help you,
Yeah.
but it's expensive and
So
sales reps don't always have that luxury. And so I wanted to make sure that it was accessible for them to use on their own as well.
for sure. And that I love this conversation, by the way. I'm really passionate about that because I've been in the training sales excellence space my whole career. But just before we wrap up, would love just
Yeah.
to understand a little bit more about you as a founder. And like now you've made this transition, it's a really cool transition from the sales into founder. What would kind of be within that transition, your biggest piece of advice that you've learned?
Yeah, I think, man, there's a lot.
Do
I
your
think,
best.
yeah, absolutely. I think a couple, like one that I found, just really important, and you hear this a lot, is talk to your customers. But what I like really mean by that is understanding why they use the product, what are their use cases, what did their buying journey look like? I think that's really important. And especially, for me, trying to understand messaging on the website, messaging in the emails, what to put out there in the organic content and using the words that they're actually using and hearing it straight from their mouths, I think is helpful. And then selfishly, if they love your product, it also gives you that kind of like added confidence that you need.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the other one is it's not as easy as you think it's going to be. And it's not as glamorous as you think it's going to be to like make that
Heard that
jump.
before.
And yeah, I think, it's one of those things where you really have to be committed and passionate about what you're doing because I, talk to a lot of founders, whether they're friends or just meeting them like through networking. And one of the things that always comes up is it's a lonely journey. It's, not a lot of
100%.
people understand what you're going through in the moment or can understand, as fully as you. And even if you have a co-founder, like it still can feel like you're in a silo and like the highs are high, but the lows are low. And so finding your like tribe or your network, I think, of people to support you and be there is so critical to pushing through.
Heard that so many times. And just you just never know who you're going to learn something from as well and who you're going to meet. Um,
Absolutely.
Awesome, love it. And that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. Of course, I want to thank Justin for sharing his incredible journey and insights with us today. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future via wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find more resources and insights at closes.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their sales and marketing through world-class systems. We look forward to seeing you on the next one.